Next up, you'll be seeing our innovation stage, which is where we showcase products and services that have the ability to take you and your company to the next level. So our next section will be hosted by none other than James Sharon, our amazing director of this conference. So let's welcome him back to the stage. James.
Hey everyone, welcome back to our innovation stage where Patricia did a great job explaining that we'll be hearing from some more of the latest and greatest startups. So next up, first off today, I'm excited to welcome Mr. Austin Lowe, CEO of Peak. Welcome, Austin.
Alrighty, how's everybody doing? Hanging in there? Enough coffee to last through the innovation pitches? I love how they put the non-real estate native people near the end, so you get to see us in our fun shirts. My name's Austin Lowe. I'm co-founder and CEO of Peak. And I'm here today to talk about a topic and an industry that's actually really near and dear to my heart. I've spent the better part of the last decade really focusing on e-commerce. But before Peak, focusing more on the investor side. So I was an investor in a number of large e-commerce companies, followed them from private all the way into the public markets, and really studied and dissected their business models. So what does that have to do with multifamily? What does that have to do with why we're here today? Let's step back. This is how we purchased things when I was a kid. I was not old enough to drive yet, but we would drive to the store, buy a book, go to a travel agency in a strip mall to book the family vacation, or order food by picking up the phone and saying, hey, can I get this delivered to the house? But that's quite different than how we buy things today. Think about the last 20 things that you purchased and how many of those transactions were done online. And it's made everything easier, faster, cheaper, and more accessible. But how do we get there? How do we get from, I want to see this in the store, I'm only comfortable talking to a person before I buy this, to one-click ordering, subscribe and save? And really, it boils down to one thing. And I promised my team I would not sing a line from the Fat Joe and Ashanti song, but it's about us. It's about trust. What's love? It's about trust. And let me explain. In the beginning of e-commerce, this is day zero, first thing that Amazon sold was books. Some of the earliest e-commerce companies focused on travel, airline tickets, or sold electronics. And that wasn't because engineers like me like to read, travel, and buy hard drives on the internet. It's because they're goods where the description was enough to give you trust. A plane ticket on United Airlines from Chicago to Los Angeles in economy on a certain date at a certain time was just that. A copy of Mark Twain's A Tale of Two Cities is just a copy of A Tale of Two Cities. All you needed was a one-line description to trust that transaction and to trust that it would show up at your door, and you would get what you want. But we think about what's the next wave of e-commerce? And what were the next things that we moved to buying online? And we had things like food, staying in a stranger's home, or other home services. And if we look at that timeline and we look at the progression of technology, it only came into fruition with mass adoption of internet, mobile internet, because it became so easy and quick for people to review things. The second group of things that were unlocked and brought into this e-commerce transaction model relied on reviews as trust. And they were able to do that because people on these goods have relatively uniform preferences. And a very good Airbnb host who has a fantastic place and the sheets are clean, everybody will evaluate that roughly the same. a great restaurant will be a great restaurant to most people. So on reviews alone, you could build trust. But we haven't gotten there yet for home, for leasing. So what can we use to build trust? What can we use to unlock an e-commerce model for finding home? And that was the question that really kicked off Peak 3 years ago. For the better part of my adult life, I've lived in New York City. I actually renewed a lease for the first time in my life. I've lived in 13 apartments in a little bit over a decade, and have gone through the entire gamut of apartment hunting experiences. And when you're in the business of selling or leasing space, and the consumer experience to evaluate space is to walk through it. The best thing that you can do in a digital medium is to provide the sensation of space, a virtual tour. Not only do you want to be able to walk around the entire apartment, you want to see every single corner of what could be your future home, all the amenities in the building, the common areas, but you want to see the exact unit. Like there's a term in the technology world like WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. And that's really the gold standard for e-commerce. That's how you build trust. That's how consumers have that comfort to know that they're going to get what they see online. And when you use virtual tours as a trust layer, it no longer becomes, or it no longer is a marketing tool. It becomes a leasing platform. In a sales-driven world, in an in-person brick-and-mortar world, you want to drive leads. You want to say, hey, like, get as many people to show up as possible. If I'm running a used car lot, like, I want as many people to show up as possible so I can sell them, so I can convince them. But when your digital presence shifts from being a marketing platform to a transaction platform, you need to build trust. You want the prospects to have all the information that they need to be able to go through with a transaction. And in this case, click that button that says Apply Now. Now, virtual tours have been around for better part of the last 15 years. So why haven't we already gotten there? And number one is when you think about the transition of this tool, of this technology, from a marketing tool to a leasing platform, to a transaction enablement tool. Number one, you need to virtualize everything. You need to be able to say, hey, this is actually apartment 13G. What you see is what you're going to get. You can make this your home. As opposed to, here's a model unit. It's got nice furniture, finishes are nice, but we can't show you the exact view that you're going to get in the apartment that you want. And in order to do that, we had to speed up and make significantly more efficient the process of virtualizing. Virtualizing something with Peak is 4 times faster than anything else on the market. And what that allows us to do is to do ongoing content creation. If you went on Amazon and what you pulled up on the page wasn't the current inventory and half the things were out of stock, that wouldn't be a very good shopping experience. Similarly, you need to have the exact units, your exact inventory on your website. And in order to do that, you need to be able to do content creation on an ongoing basis. Peak actually just recently rolled out an offering called Autopilot, where we can do all that for you, hooking into your property management feed, and as soon as the unit's made ready, dispatch an operations team member to go virtualize it. We can operationalize that whole process of ongoing content creation. In terms of content management, not everybody is as sophisticated as our friend Brad there with Common, and doesn't have the automated tools to make sure that the fresh inventory is displayed on the site. And again, like in an e-commerce model, in a transaction model, you need to be able to show your exact inventory. So Peak automates the content management. Again, by hooking into the property management feed, by hooking into all of your systems, we know what's actually available. We know what the price is, so that we can make sure that the correct units are displayed on the website in a no-code fashion. Lastly, and I've already touched on it, integrations. Integrations already power our content creation and our content management. But when you think about the transition to an e-commerce model, how your prospects view your property online becomes a valuable treasure trove of data. With Peak, we measure down to the prospect level, down to the room level. We can tell that Emily Smith, who's viewed 13 units in your building starting 2 weeks ago, spends 80% of her time looking at the living rooms in the building. And that is the most important quality to her. By hooking into your leasing tools, your marketing channels, and even your business intelligence tools, you can supercharge your entire business with prospect-level, room-level data from your virtual tours. Now, how does this look like for the prospect? What does the e-commerce journey look like today? And some of our partners, some of whom were at this conference, already have this deployed at some communities, where step one is to tour the entire community virtually. With Peak and our linked spaces feature, we can even link multiple models together so that a prospect can walk from the front door all the way up to the door of their future home, walk around and say, well, let me see what the walk to the dog park would be. I have a new puppy. I don't know if the puppy will make it. How long is this walk? And be able to navigate the entire space virtually. And with that, 25% or more of leads are ready to sign sight unseen. They click that apply now. They're already at checkout. But for the rest of prospects, all they need is a quick in-person sanity check. What used to be an hour or more long exploratory tour of the property becomes really a check to see, hey, do the carpets smell? Is it noisy? And that's about it. And what are the results? When you move to an e-commerce model, and these are numbers from case studies we've done with partners, units spend 25% less time on market. You have a 24/7 leasing office. Anybody can browse, anybody can walk through your property and decide, hey, I want to live here at 2 in the morning. And that's a superpower that an on-site leasing office and a staffed leasing office cannot provide. And that results in real dollars and cents in reduced vacancy loss. And secondly, when prospects do show up, when the human touch is needed, they convert 3 times more often, creating a significant impact in lessening the leasing load on your on-site teams. So, what's next? As you saw in the last 2 slides, some prospects still do need to show up in person. Some prospects do need to interact with somebody, call it pre-lease. But could we get to a process that's entirely self-service? Think about how many times you've actually had to interact with somebody in the last 10 online transactions you've made. I can count that maybe on 1 or 2 fingers. And we may be closer to that than you think. If you're interested in this journey and interested in this vision for what leasing can be, I encourage all of you to follow along. My name's Austin Lowe, and I'm with Peak. Thank you very much.